Welcome to U.S. Defense Line Channel. Ukrainian army started operations in the Zaporizhzhia region. Explosion sounds from the region came one after another. For this region and Crimea, which is predicted to be the next target after Kherson, the violence of the operations may increase at any moment. Thousands of Russian soldiers are under siege. Strategically advancing Ukraine took action for effective measures in many regions. In this way, he makes a very correct move by ensuring his progress. Russia has also started to take measures in its own way, but it will not be difficult for the Ukrainian army to overcome the inadequate measures. It was reported that Russian forces are trying to advance on the Novopavlivka, Avdiivka, and Bakhmut fronts. In addition, according to the statements, Russian troops started to strengthen their positions on the east bank of the Dnipro River on the Kherson front and on the Zaporizhzhia front. In its latest statements for this region, Ukraine reported that Russian troops transferred some of their military equipment to the left bank of the Dnipro River and strengthened the defense line in that area. However, it was announced that some Russian military forces still remain on the right bank of the Dnipro River. But it is also seen that the Ukrainian defense units are aware of the movements of the Russian army and are ready for any development. Despite Russia's attempts to attack and strengthen its positions in certain regions, Ukraine continues to work intensively. Explosion sounds echoed from critical areas one after the other. After the start of the liberation of the Kherson region, operations against the critical region Melitopol on the Zaporizhzhia front were expected to begin. According to breaking news, Ukrainian forces have started operations against critical points of Russian troops in this region. Sharing details from the region, Melitopol Mayor Ivan Fedorov announced that 4 explosions occurred in the Melitopol region in Zaporizhzhia Oblast. Ukraine's successful operation continues. Russia, as we know, had to withdraw from the Kherson region. Ukraine's successful offensive is not limited to Kherson. President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelensky shared positive news from Ukraine in his remarkable statement. Zelensky announced that 41 places were saved in the southern region of Ukraine. While Ukraine has been carrying out successful operations recently, especially in Kherson, it continues to strengthen its positions in the regions where it is located. In the face of this success of Ukraine, it is also remarkable that the number of regions under Russia's control is decreasing day by day. Fact that Russia had to decide to leave Kherson after the referendum, after signing an unacceptable document stating that 4 regions, including Kherson, belong to Russia, also gives a clear message about Moscow's failure in the war. It can be expected that Russia will give more green light to the negotiations after its unsuccessful course on Ukrainian soil. Russia's Wagner mercenaries continue their efforts to remain active in Ukraine. While the Ukrainian soldiers are carrying out successful operations, Russia is trying to keep the Ukrainian troops back on Ukrainian soil using different methods. According to the breaking news, these soldiers set up a defense line in Ukraine. Ukrainian armed forces made a remarkable statement about the defense line known as the Wagner Line, built in the Donbas region by Russia's Wagner Group army. Ukrainian armed forces announced that they are carefully watching the actions of the Russian troops and that the Ukrainian troops are preparing to overcome this defensive line known as the Wagner Line. It is known that the purpose of these barriers is to stop or impede the advance of Ukrainian troops. It has been announced that the line here can be explosive or non-explosive barriers. A senior official from the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine stated that if these troops approach, this situation will be overcome. As it is known, these soldiers had been forced against the Ukrainian troops many times before. Even the founder of this group was dissatisfied with Moscow's decisions and progress due to their situation at the front. In particular, he made serious criticisms of some of the Russian commanders. Losses of military equipment of Russian troops in Ukraine are also increasing day by day. Latest casualties of the Russian forces have been announced. General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine shared the latest losses of Russia on the territory of Ukraine. This time, Ukraine destroyed 3 artillery systems, 16 armored combat vehicles, 3 tanks, and 16 unmanned aerial vehicles of the Russian troops. At the same time, it was announced that 740 Russian soldiers were neutralized in just one day. General Staff also announced that Russia suffered the most losses on the Avdiivka and Lyman fronts. Looking at the data shared by Ukraine, it is seen that approximately 5,700 armored combat vehicles have been destroyed by Russia since the first days of the war. At the same time, it was reported that the Russian army, which suffered serious losses, carried out a total of 17 missiles and 50 unmanned aerial vehicle attacks in the last week. However, it was still unsuccessful, and the Ukrainian air defense units managed to destroy most of these missiles and more than half of the unmanned aerial vehicles. Ukrainian air defense units managed to destroy a total of 53 Russian military equipment and ammunition targets in 1 week. Ukraine's attacks on the last day were also announced. Ukraine carried out TAT attacks against critical points of Russian forces with planes. It was announced that one of these attacks was made on the anti-aircraft defense system and 7 other Russian military personnel, weapons, and military equipment. It was reported that Ukraine's rocket and artillery units also hit 2 ammunition depots, 1 Russian command post, 5 anti-aircraft defense systems, 8 Russian forces, the area where their weapons and military equipment are located, and many other critical targets. Ukrainian missile and artillery units have proven successful many times since the beginning of the war, performing hundreds of firing missions. It has even been reported that these missile and artillery units have hit more than 56 command centers and about 120 ammunition depots and logistics bases belonging to the Russian army so far. In addition to these, it was reported that hundreds of different targets of Russian troops were destroyed by these Ukrainian missile and artillery units. As long as such accurate moves continue, the Russian troops will be increasingly challenged. As both critical points and various equipment are destroyed, it begins to experience serious decreases in operational power. We can see this from the recent developments. While the Ukrainian troops succeeded in succession, the Russian army retreated from many fronts or had to face serious losses. Ukraine again repelled Russian troops in many areas. Russian forces were repelled from 12 regions in total in these 2 oblasts, including the Novoselivsk and Makiivka regions on the Luhansk front of the Ukrainian armed forces, and the Vesel, Solder, and Myorsk regions on the Donetsk front. Russian troops, who had to withdraw in every region that is of great importance for the countries, now have even more difficulties in staying in the regions. With each loss of territory, it becomes easier for more to happen, because as the control area of the Ukrainian troops expands, they can be deployed more easily. We can say that it has become difficult for the Russian army to find a place to deploy. Latest attacks of the Russian forces were also announced. Russian troops are now playing their last trump card. This time, it was reported that it carried out 22 air strikes, 11 missile strikes, and also more than 35 multiple launch rocket systems in 1 day. It was announced that Russian troops attacked more than 30 regions in Ukraine on 7 fronts, including the Donetsk, Zaporizhzhia, and Sumy regions. It is also known that he could not achieve success with such moves. This causes military equipment and ammunition to be wasted. Russia, which is already experiencing a resource problem, has to deal with serious problems due to wasted ammunition. Decisions that countries will make in the future are now of much greater importance. This causes every step to be taken to become more critical. Both countries must now choose their every move more carefully and in line with strategic goals. In time, we will see how the countries will progress and how the course of the war will be shaped. Now, the side that can achieve success and continue its progress will have a serious advantage. For this reason, in these days when the violence of the war has increased considerably, each move becomes more important than the previous one. We'll see what happens in the next few days. We have reached the end of another video. You can support us by liking the video. You can easily follow new videos by subscribing. I wish you all a war-free day. See you.